Good evening, everybody. We will be starting in just about 3 to 5 minutes. Thank you for your patience. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for your patience. My name is Karen LeBlanc, and I'm here on behalf of the consultant team working with the District Department of Transportation on the Lane Place Pedestrian Bridge project. Again, we thank you all for being here. Before we start the presentation, I do have a couple of housekeeping items. Jason, would you switch to the next slide, please? First of all, at the end of the meeting, you will receive an email with a short survey. If you could please fill out the survey and then hit submit, we would really appreciate it. That will return the form to us, and it will fulfill some requirements that we have with regard to our Title VI public meeting participant forms. Next slide, please. At the end of our presentation, there will be plenty of time to ask questions. And the questions again will be asked at the end of the presentation. For those people who are online, we ask that you select the question mark icon at the bottom of your screen and then select Ask All Panelists to make sure that everybody sees your question in the Q&A panel, which is down on your right at any time. If you're on the phone, we ask you to dial *3 to raise or lower your hand. That way we'll see that you're interested in asking a question and we'll make sure that you're in the queue. For any technical support, if you're having any issues, please call 202-309-3491. And again, stay tuned after the meeting. We'll provide you with some emails and also our online website where you can also provide additional comments. The meeting is being streamed and recorded. It can be found on facebook.com/Ddot.DC. And it is also available at Ddot's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/C/Ddot videos. And additionally, again, as I mentioned, the website, which is www.laneplacepedestrianbridge.dc, all one word, .com. All of this information will be repeated at the end of the presentation as well. Next slide, thank you. With us today, we have the Ddot team. We have team member David Takur, who is the Team 4 Program Manager. We have Suha Atiya, who is the Supervisory Civil Engineer. We have John Gomez, a Civil Engineer for Ddot. And we have Alberta Paul, who is the Communications Specialist and Logistical Support for all projects for Ddot. On the consulting team, we have Mr. Jason Korse, and we have Marlon Smoker. We will be, again, available to answer any of your questions at the end of the presentation. At this time, I would like to open the floor to David Takur, who has a couple of comments that he would like to make before we continue with the presentation. David?
Thank you, Karen. Welcome everybody to our meeting tonight. Thank you all for attending on this extremely warm winter's night, out of context for this time of the year. As all of you know, the bridge collapsed earlier on this year, and our remit that we received from our Director and Chief Engineer was to put one in its place as soon as possible. And then the mayor followed up with an order to complete that endeavor within 3 years. So we've treated this as the highest priority project in our team. We've assembled our best people to make this work. We sole sourced our consulting engineer from a previous design project, the Douglas Bridge, which is very similar in physical appearance. And we are expediting this schedule very successfully at this time. We have done everything within our power to mitigate delays moving forward by working, by advancing, expediting all the issues up front. So, for instance, we've expedited design issue resolution. We've whittled down various design options in record time. We have mitigated utility issues to avoid delays down the line and right-of-way issues. So everything's running very smoothly and to our schedule at this point in time. I look to our presenters tonight to represent what you'll be seeing over the coming months and years, and to represent all the successes that we've achieved so far in putting a design together. I'd also like to avail of this opportunity to show my appreciation for Suhar Atiye, who is the supervisory civil engineer for Ddot, who's worked very closely with our consultant lead, Jason Corse, and to relentlessly, it's been a hard drive to put everything in place for a successful project, but the fruits of our labor will be seen as we proceed, because a lot has been done in the last several months. And with that, I'm going to be handing back to Karen. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you, David. The presentation this evening will be given by Mr. Corse, and he will be explaining where we are currently in the design process. Again, we are eager to hear your feedback, and at this point, I will now hand it over to Jason Corse. Jason?
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, David. And thank you all for attending this evening. I'm very excited to present this project to the community. Tonight, we're going to start off with the background of the project, with what happened, why we're replacing the bridge. We'll talk about some of the initial studies and some of the challenges that we're facing on this project. We'll then get into the project goals, and we'll follow that up by presenting to you the design as it currently stands, and then we'll provide you some additional detail on the improvements that we're designing into this crossing. We'll then get on to discuss the project timeline and then how we are progressing this project forward. Finally, we'll answer any questions that you may have, and then we'll also listen to any of your comments and feedback. And at the end of the presentation, we will be able to go back through the slides if there's any particular questions you have on any of the slides. And I also want you to let you know that I will be taking a brief pause at the end of a number of the slides in order for you to digest the information and what you're seeing on the slides before I move to the next slide. So we're going to start out with the project location. So I want to draw your attention to the thumbnail of the District of Columbia in the upper left of this slide. So in there, you can see the project location in Ward 7. On the upper right of the slide, you'll see the DC Maryland line. In the bottom middle, you'll see the Minnesota Avenue Metro Station. If you follow those tracks up and to the right, you'll see the Deanwood Metro Station. On the bottom left to the upper right, you'll see DC 295, commonly referred to as Kenilworth Avenue on the screen. And in the middle of the screen, this is where our project location is, in the Eastland Gardens neighborhood between Lane Place and Meade Street, crossing over DC 295. So as many of you are aware, on June 23rd of this year, the Lane Place Pedestrian Bridge collapsed after it was hit by a truck traveling southbound on DC 295 with its subframe in the raised position. The DC government responded quickly, cleared the road, and got it reopened to traffic in less than 24 hours. Shortly thereafter, the bridge abutment was removed for public safety. In July of 2021, Mayor Bowser signed an emergency declaration to provide funding to expedite the design work necessary for Ddot to replace the Lane Place Pedestrian Bridge. Ddot mobilized a team immediately to scope the project and to begin the design, looking carefully at what sort of improvements could be brought to the project, feasible locations, and constraints and challenges in the project area. So speaking of the project area, this slide provides a good overview of the project area. So to orient yourself on the screen, we have DC 295 running from left to right. At the top is the Eastland Gardens neighborhood, where we've identified Lane Place, Meade Street, and 44th Street. On the bottom, you'll see the CSX and Metro Rail lines and the commercial properties that are adjacent to those lines in Kenilworth Avenue. Finally, in the middle, you'll see the Lane Place Pedestrian Bridge prior to collapse. So during those initial studies and scoping, Ddot really wanted to look at how to improve this crossing and make it safer. They wanted to get the crossing as close as possible to the prior bridge location, but also stay within Ddot right-of-way or public space to avoid any impacts to private property. So as you can see, this is a fairly challenging site. It's very congested. There's very limited public space available with private properties, both residential and commercial, directly adjacent to the service roads on both sides of DC 295. Those private properties have curb cuts, numerous curb cuts in some places to access the properties. And then in addition, there's also numerous utilities in the project area, both overhead and below ground, including Pepco Power, Verizon, RCN, Comcast Communication, Washington Gas below ground, and then DC Water with water and sanitary sewer facilities in the project location. So given the challenges and the constraints, we were able to identify a good location for the new bridge. It's shown here in red. It's approximately 220 feet north of the existing bridge. But what made this a good location was the existing public space that was unencumbered right here in green adjacent to the southbound service road. So even though we identified a good location for the existing bridge, we still had challenges as the design moves forward. Those challenges would include the location of the access ramps to the bridge, again, avoiding those curb cuts because we know those are valuable to the businesses and the residents that they serve, the numerous utilities that I explained, and also the new bridge crossed over an existing on-ramp or access ramp for vehicular traffic from the service road onto DC 295. So that's falling clearly within the project area, and it may have been something that would pose a challenge to us as we move forward. So with the project scoped and the location known, we established goals for the project as we started the more detailed design. So those goals were to replace the bridge on an accelerated schedule, to improve pedestrian safety and accessibility, and to design the new bridge to meet current standards. So this image shows the design for the new pedestrian bridge. So again, to orient yourself on this image, we have DC 295, also known as Kenilworth Avenue, running left to right on your screen. At the top of the screen, again, we have the Eastland Gardens neighborhood with Lane Place, Meade Street, and 44th Street identified. And at the bottom, we have the commercial properties and the rail tracks. So next, what I'm going to do is walk you through the design here on this screen. And one of the key things I want to note immediately is that the bridge and the project are completely within Ddot public space. That means there's no property impacts, and we've also avoided any curb closures with this design. So in the middle of the screen, you'll see the main span of the bridge crossing over Kenilworth Avenue. It spans approximately 146 feet. On either side of that main span, you see the bridge access ramps and the bridge stairs. I also want to point out the realigned service roads on both sides of DC 295. We needed to realign these roads to accommodate the new bridge in its current location. And as I spoke about earlier, the access ramp onto DC 295 that was previously in this general location has been relocated approximately 500 feet to the south. Finally, what's not included on this image is the power line relocation work that we're working right now with Pepco for a design that will accommodate the new bridge, and that's anticipated to be completed this spring. So this image, excuse me. So this image shows the same design as the prior slide, but in a three-dimensional rendering. So again, to orient yourself with the project, you'll see DC 295 in the middle of your screen, running from the bottom left to the top
Jason,
right.
can I just interrupt you there? I think we missed you for about half a minute on the last slide. Your voice went away. We saw a slide with some writing on it.
Yeah, I was having a bit of technical difficulty with the slide progressing. I stopped speaking for a while until I got back to the correct slide. I believe we are on the correct slide now. Okay, thank you, David. So again, to orient yourself, we have DC 295 and the service roads that run parallel to DC 295, going from the bottom left to the top right of your screen. You can see Meade Street on the top of your screen. And again, an image of the bridge spanning across Kenilworth Avenue with the access ramps and the stairs on either side of Kenilworth Avenue. So next, we're going to talk through some of the key bridge improvements in more detail. These improvements include the increased bridge height, the bridge crossing over DC 295 and the service roads, improved lighting, increased bridge width, the access ramps, which are going to be wider with more moderate slopes, and also stairs for alternate access to the bridge. So the bridge height above the roadway, also referred to as vertical clearance, is the distance from the bottom of the bridge to the top of the road. And that's depicted here at the red line you see on the screen. So the prior bridge had a vertical clearance of 14 foot 3 inches. The federal requirement is now 17 feet for pedestrian bridges, and Ddot's requirement is 17.5 feet. So this new bridge will meet both the minimum vertical requirements of Ddot and federal with a minimum vertical clearance of 17.5 feet. So I also want to take this opportunity to discuss the bridge type. So the bridge will be a box truss. And so what this does for us is it minimizes the distance from the walking surface on the bridge to the bottom of the bridge. For this particular case, it'll be approximately 1.5 feet. And so this will place the walking surface for pedestrians approximately 19 feet over the roadway surface. So the new bridge will be a safer crossing. The prior bridge, shown here in the bottom right, crossed over DC 295, but the ramps landed in the median between DC 295 and the service roads. So this forced pedestrians to cross the service roads at grade and at unsignalized location. The new bridge crosses over both DC 295 and the service roads. So this eliminates the at-grade crossing of the service road for pedestrians. The new crossing will have improved lighting on the bridge, the ramps, and the stairs. So this will create a safer crossing at night. The prior bridge only had 2 dedicated lights, one on either end, that were responsible for lighting the main span and the ramps. So the new bridge will have multiple light poles on the ramps and stairs, and multiple light fixtures on the main bridge itself. The illuminance levels will meet the minimum requirements for pedestrian facilities. The new bridge will be wider, better accommodating multiple modes of pedestrian transportation, including walking, jogging, bicycling, even scooting. So the new bridge is going to be will be 12 feet wide versus the prior bridge, which was approximately 7 feet wide. So this is an increase in width of about 5 feet. The interior height from the walking surface to the top of the bridge will be 10 feet. So this is going to provide a more open feel as you're crossing over the bridge. The main structural component of this bridge is steel. The bridge deck will be a composite material called FRP, or fiber reinforced polymer, which is very lightweight and durable. And a couple other features I want to point out on the screen. The light fixtures that I referred to in the prior slide, you can see here and here. And then I also want to point out the mesh screening on the 3 sides of the bridge. This will provide safety for both the pedestrian users on the bridge and then vehicles below to prevent anything from falling over and landing on any traveling vehicles on DC 295. So as shown earlier, the bridge will have access ramps on both sides. The ramp slopes will meet the Americans with Disability Act requirements. This means there'll be more gradual slopes, so less steep than the prior bridge ramps. And this will better accommodate users with mobility challenges. So with a higher bridge and more gradual slopes, these ramps will be longer. The east ramp, which is shown here, and has a turnback in it, will be approximately 85 feet in length. And the west ramp, which was shown earlier, will be approximately 225 feet in length. These bridge ramps will also be wider. So they will be 10 feet wide compared to 6 feet from the prior bridge. And the ramps will be made of a steel truss structure, similar to the main bridge, but unlike the main bridge, there'll be an open top. And finally, the bridge ramps will be a concrete walking surface. So as I pointed out earlier, the bridge is going to have stairs on both the east side, shown in the right picture, and the west side, shown in the left picture. This will provide an alternate means for accessing the crossing. The stairs will connect to the sidewalks on both sides, similar to the ramps. These stairs will be 6 feet wide. They'll be constructed of steel, and they'll have a concrete walking surface, similar to the bridge and the ramps. So I briefly touched on this earlier in the presentation, the need to relocate the DC 295 access ramp to accommodate the new bridge location. So the existing access ramp shown in the upper left is very short with very little distance for vehicles to accelerate and merge with 295 traffic. And oftentimes when you're out there, you'll see vehicles come to a complete stop in order to wait for an appropriate gap in order to merge with the 295 traffic. By relocating this ramp 500 feet to the south, we're able to improve the ramp. So the design is providing for a longer access ramp onto DC 295, which is going to increase the acceleration length and merge distance. And that new ramp is shown here on the right side of the image. So I'm going to close the detailed design discussion with an update on the bus stops in the project area. So the bus stop locations were coordinated with WMATA during the design development. WMATA and Ddot took into account safety of both pedestrians, the buses, and vehicles, and also the current ridership at these bus stops. So some of the changes that are occurring, if you see in the top left of this image, the existing bus stops at 42nd and Lane, which I'm showing here in green, are going to be replaced with a single new bus stop on the south side of Lane Place, which is shown here in blue. All other bus stops adjacent to the new bridge, which are shown in white, will remain in their current location. For the location of the bus stops relative to the new bridge, the bus stop shown in white in the lower left is approximately 400 feet from the bridge access point. The stop on the lower right is approximately 250 feet. On the upper right, bus stop shown in white is 450 feet. And the new stop in the upper left is approximately 250 feet to the access point of the new bridge. So for the project timeline, as we stated earlier, this design started very quickly in August of 2021. It's been progressing very well, and we anticipate to have it completed in the summer of 2022. After design completion and approval, the project will be advertised for construction. And once construction is awarded and NTP granted to a contractor, we anticipate approximately 12 months for construction of the new bridge. In terms of progressing this project forward, what you'll see out there in the project area is we'll be completing some of our current field activities, which include survey updates, utility test pits to find the exact location of some of these underground facilities so that we can avoid major conflicts, and then also our geotechnical boring so we can get the subsurface conditions in order to properly design the foundations for our bridge. Utility relocations will be occurring in the spring, the most significant of which will be the Pepco relocations, where Pepco will be moving some lines around on their poles in order to accommodate the new bridge. And then again, in the summer, we'll be completing this design. I'll hand it back over to Karen to conclude the presentation and start the question and comment period.
Thank you, Jason. As we mentioned earlier, we were talking about the website. That website will be updated as new information is available, and it does include frequently asked questions. So we do recommend that you go visit and take a look at those questions in case there's some that were not or that you still have, and that we could answer through the website. We are now going to move to the Q&A session. Let me just go through again the best ways to communicate with us. First of all, we're going to ask people if you could please use the raised hand. I can see the list of attendees, and I will go down in order and call people's names as you raise your hands in order to ask the questions in an orderly fashion. If you are on the phone, again, please dial *3. If you're on the computer, you can select the 3 dots icon and then select the raised hand to ask a question. If you are unable to get your question answered today, or you think of something afterwards, you can submit your questions and comments to any of the following 3 people: David Takur, david.takur@dc.gov, Suha Hatia, suha.atia@dc.gov, and me, Karen LeBlanc, at karen.leblanc@kglcommunications.com. Again, the meeting has also been recorded, and it's going to be posted on our Facebook page and Ddot's YouTube page. So if you missed anything today, we encourage you to go over and take a look at the presentation again. And lastly, the website again is www.laneplacepedestrianbridgedc.com. So I'm looking at our list to see if anybody has raised their hand yet, and I am not seeing anybody, but I know we do have some questions.
Actually, Karen, we do have DL Humphrey raise their hand.
Oh, super. I see that now. Thank you, Molly.
We will unmute you now.
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is D.L. Humphrey. I'm the Director for Constituent Services, Councilman Vincent Gray. Uh, Thank you. First, thank Ddot for having this meeting. Shot one of my favorite employees, Alberta Paul. Always a pleasure to see you or to hear from you. One of my questions is this: what engagement or interaction that Ddot has had with the ANC for this particular area to make sure that they are apprised of what's going on, timelines, so on and so forth, just to make sure that they have been included in this process.
DL, I have been responsible along with Karen talking to the ANCs, all of the ANCs in 7D. In fact, last month, Ddot was present at ANC 7D's monthly meeting. We did not get to do a detailed presentation because a redistricting dialogue started and extended to 9:30.
Right.
But we did follow up with individual conversations with the chair and several of the single member districts and encourage them to come out. As I see tonight, we were able to, minus you, get 34 people out from ANC 7D tonight.
Excellent. All right. Now, I think that will conclude. I'll probably have some more questions later on, but thank you so very much for answering that one. And I yield my time back to the chair.
Thank you. Max Richmond, you have a question?
Good evening, Ddot team. My name is Max Richmond. I'm a resident on 44th Street nearby the project site in Deanwood. I'm also part of the Deanwood Citizens Association. I appreciate, Mr. Humphrey said, that you all have come to the community early in the design phase to allow us to understand what's going on and to provide comments. So thank you for that. With that said, I have two questions. My first question is, have you all considered extending the bridge even further so that it can also cross the WMATA and CSX tracks to the nearby firehouse that was built? This would allow connectivity more extensive than currently conceived. And as somebody who lives on the Deanwood side, I would very much like to be able to get over to that side of town. And I imagine people who might want to go to the fire station for a vaccine or for an emergency would also appreciate that opportunity. So I was wondering if that figured into your plans. And then my second question is, there are two more bridges with the old design further north as you continue on 295. I know that's not the scope of today's conversation, but I was wondering if you could speak to their safety and plans to do similar projects for those. Thank you very much.
Douglas Bridge is current. I'll answer one part of them and then I'll shift it to David and Suha. The Douglas Bridge, as you know or might not have noticed, is already under construction. And we just completed and opened the Parkside Pedestrian Bridge, which brings the neighborhood of Parkside, Mayfair, Kenilworth, and those who would want to walk from East Lane Gardens over to that location and go straight into the metro station. As I said before, the Douglas Bridge construction started 60 days ago. There are other design projects. Ultimately, the short answer is all of the bridges will be replaced in the next 2.5 years. But we can't congest a congested area by doing multiple bridges at the same time. So we finished Parkside. We've just started Douglas. We're ramping and running hard on Lane Place Pedestrian Bridge, and we'll target the others within the next 21 months.
Thank you, Ms. P. On the back of what Ms. P has just said, I think you're referring to the two remaining bridges as the second part of your question. And at this point in time, I think only one of those is substandard height-wise. One was built to the modern day standards, believe it or not, and the other one was not. So at this point in time, I cannot I cannot confirm what will be happening with Nash Bridge, whether it's being replaced in the short term or the longer term, or whether it is being replaced at all. I think that will be the subject of ongoing discussion with stakeholders and Ddot and etc. On the first question, very interesting question, and the short answer is no, we have not. We have not considered extending the bridge to, is it Deanwood Metro Station you're talking about, or
No,
across the tracks?
yeah, across the tracks, there is a fire station that was just built. So that is a private developer, but a government facility built on top of it.
No, we have not. And is that a direct route from this bridge? I mean, it would be impossible to incorporate that into this project because of the right of way, the acquisition, etc., the right of way, the legal things. But I'd be interested if Jason could locate where we're talking about, where you're talking about. It's probably not feasible for this project to get this bridge built in place within couple of years from now. But Jason, would you be able to identify that on one of the slides at all that we've just shown?
Yeah, if you're able to bring up the slide where the proposed bridge is indicated, I can speak to what's on the south side of that location.
Thank you. A lot of private land, I think.
So yeah, if you could go a couple more slides back.
This probably has the best area that's not cropped out. Most of the others crop it out here.
All right, in that case, it's just covered by the text box, but yeah,
Okay.
directly south of that bridge, once you cross that parking lot, that's CSX and WMATA rail. And on the other side of that is currently a new fire station that was built. So that's why I was wondering about thoughts about connecting, because basically right now, if you were to cross from the north side of this bridge to the south side of the bridge, there's no way for you to get past the CSX or WMATA rail station without either walking to the left all the way back to the Burroughs Avenue or walking to the right all the way to Polk Street. So I was just curious to see if there was any consideration about extending this bridge to provide even more utility to pedestrians.
There has been none whatsoever. It wasn't part of. We were. The remit here was to replace the bridge with the improvements that Jason ran through earlier, traversing, the safety hazards of crossing the service roads. But no, we haven't. And this, as I said, just looking at this to traverse over to that side of the tracks, we're dealing with additional piers in other people's right of way. We're dealing with a lot of WMATA work that would take years to complete, as opposed multiple years to complete on the design front and the environmental assessment and attributes of that. So we are focused on this project to put a replacement lane bridge in place within a couple of years, and that's got to be my answer to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any more raised hands. Again, for people on the phone, if you hit *3, I will be alerted, and then we can let you know. Oh, wait, I see one now. Marcia Bynum, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I have a question. I have a couple of questions. I noticed that the ramp is much longer in terms of walking to access the overpass on the bridge, longer than it is now. And I guess my main thought is, what happened with the structure where it used to be? Why can't it be put back in that same area? You said something about utilities and water lines. So are they changing those things?
You bring up a very good question. So the reason for the longer ramp lengths is twofold. The first is that we need to get the bridge up higher because there's a federal requirement that the bridge be 17 feet over the roadway. And then Ddot has an additional requirement of 17.5 feet. So we've selected the structure with the lowest profile we can, and that puts the walking surface approximately 19 feet over the roadway. So now we need to get.
How long has that been in place, this requirement of 17?
The 17 feet requirement has been in place for, I would say, for at least 15 years, maybe for as long as I've been an engineer, which is 20 plus years.
Okay, because that bridge has been there for so long as the other ones have been. So I'm just thinking about the accommodation for all of these trucks that come through 295 now. Is this more so to accommodate those trucks?
Yes, ma'am. And so back to the question, with having that walking height approximately 19 feet over the roadway, and then having to meet the ADA compliant slope requirements, that's what gets us ramps that have the lengths as we showed and defined in this presentation. Regarding your second question of replacing the bridge at the same exact location, that answer, there's a couple of reasons behind that. The first is, in order to replace it at that exact same location, if we were to put the ramps back in the median, then we would create that same unsafe crossing of the service road that exists today or previously at an unsignalized intersection. So that was one thing that we was almost a definite must that we needed to prevent from happening. And then if you look at that crossing location, it was approximately here, as I'm showing on my screen. So to put it back right at the same location, it's very congested with 2 curb cuts on either side. And then on the residential side of the street, there's a property that's extremely close to the service road. So to span over right in the exact location, we would have conflicts with this residential property, and then we would certainly have conflicts with some of the curb cuts in the commercial properties on the east side.
So how is it configured on the opposite side of Kenilworth? How was that? Is that also, not crossing over the median?
On, can you help me out in which side of Kenilworth?
Okay, you're on the Lane Place side. So let's just say the other side is the Deanwood side.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
So how
was that structured?
crossing over here?
Uh-huh.
So what we did on this is we had to line the service, which the current curb line exists approximately in this location, right adjacent to the sidewalk. 4 feet from the sidewalk is the existing curb line. So we had to push that curb line out, shift the service road over in order to accommodate the new bridge ramp on this side. With that, we did have a conflict with the existing slip ramp or access ramp onto DC 295 for vehicular traffic. And that's what we needed to relocate down to the south. And when we did that, we were able to improve that ramp.
So I guess my question, do you still have to walk across the street to access the bridge entrance?
No, not at all. Not at all. If you see here, this ramp ties directly into the sidewalk, and the
Right.
stairs on this side will tie directly into the sidewalk.
Okay.
On the residential side, again, the stairs are tying directly into the sidewalk here, and the ramp is tying in here. So there's no crossing of the service road to access the bridge.
It's not as clear as the other side is on the graphic.
Jason, if you go to the project overview slide with that rendering,
Yeah, I agree.
think it'd be more
That's
clear.
where I was going. Yeah. So this slide better shows what I was trying to depict in that 2D view. Thank you, Suha. So you can see the bridge. This is the service road below, the service road below, and you see the bridge spans over the service road, so there's no at-grade crossing of the service road on either side. And the
Okay, so
stairs are
that's
the
all
ramps.
from like sidewalk access.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh. And the other one is, so if the design was 2021, the design complete is 2022, and 12 months out, so we talking 2023?
In terms of completion, yes, there is an advertisement period. So design completion will be, mid 2022, and then the project will advertise for construction for contractors to bid on it. And once it's advertised and bids come in, they're evaluated and notice to proceed. A contract is awarded, and then a contractor's provided notice to proceed. Depending on a number of things, that period can vary from a few months to maybe even 6 months. I know this is on an expedited schedule, so I'm sure that we will be pushing ahead trying to get that done in a very short time frame. So
That's
once
great.
that is awarded, then that when they get into construction, we're anticipating a 12-month duration.
Thanks,
David,
Jason.
did you have
Yes,
anything?
we're treating this project with a high priority. It is also been hopefully receiving emergency funds, and it's therefore an emergency project. We're looking to get this bridge back in place as soon as possible. To that end, we are hoping to go to construction in the third, latest fourth quarter of next year. It's a tight push, and that will get us in. That will get us in before the end of 2023.
Okay, and Douglas Street was mentioned. Did somebody say that they were working on the bridge at Douglas Street as well?
Yes, we've just issued a notice to proceed to start that work, and so you will see construction out there within the coming days, if not the next week or so.
And what are they doing to that at Douglas Street?
Douglas Street, we are replacing the Douglas Street Bridge.
Replacing it?
Yes.
Wow. So did the community receive notice about that?
Oh, yes. Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am. And you deserve the best. We're going to replace over the next 3.5, maximally 4 years, all of your pedestrian bridges to increase safety and access.
Okay, I don't remember seeing anything about the that one being replaced. I mean, I do get the mail and read it, but I don't remember anything. So I was kind of surprised when it came up. But that's good to know.
Okay, thank you so much for those questions. We have two more people. First, I'm going to go with Ms. Slayton, Sharita Slayton.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate how you all informed us through mail as well as the door hangers of this meeting this evening. I have a few questions based on just the history of the bridges along 295. When I was the ANC 10 years ago, at that time, they had stated that they would tear down the Lane Street Bridge and the Nash Street Bridge and replace it with one bridge due to the utilization of those two bridges. And I understand how this has heightened attention and the need to replace the bridge, but what has changed as far as information of utilization of the bridges rather? Because as you all are stating, we have several bridges along 295, and I understand and know the history of that back to redlining and how 295 was built to divide the communities. So I just question, based on the need of the bridges while they are there and they need to be safe, what really are the needs currently, and do we need as many bridges as you all are deeming to replace?
Well, we're definitely going to replace the Douglas Bridge. We know this. We're definitely replacing the Douglas Bridge at this time. And we will be replacing the Lane Bridge in about a year or so, and having those completed within the 3-year period. As for the Nash Bridge, the jury's out, I should say, but we cannot speak for its replacement at this time. That is not my remit at this point in time, and I suppose I should say it's yet to be decided. But you are right, madam, in saying that at one time there was a plan. It was several years ago, and Jason can identify better with this because I think his firm came up with a study report that did combine the Nash and Lane Bridge into one bridge. At this point in time, we are replacing the Lane Bridge on the back of what transpired earlier this year, as far as the collapse of the pre-existing bridge, and that's our remit for this current time.
So can you all provide the data of utilization of the bridge before making this decision?
Well, we provided data and assessed data, and we took into account the public response to the accident that happened earlier this year. On that basis, the mayor called a directive to replace this bridge, which is what we're doing now. In terms of the data release, I cannot. I can't recall when the last data was collected. I think it was collected during that report. I think that was represented earlier on this year in terms of replacements that are happening. But as to how it relates to the replacement of the Nash Bridge, I cannot comment. But to put the Douglas and at least the Douglas Bridge and the Lane Bridge back in place at this time is the least that's going to happen. And beyond that, I couldn't comment further.
Okay, I just hope that you all will assess that. Also, I have a question. There's a lot of construction going on with both service roads. And it seems as though it's going to be you all putting this bridge up, and the service roads and the repairs that are being made now will then have to take place again. I just hope that communication could be better between government agencies so as to save funds. In addition, when I was the ANC previously, we also spoke of a sound wall due to the vibration of the CSX trains and also WMATA subway trains that is affecting our homes over here in Eastland Gardens. So while you all are choosing to replace the bridges, I would like to also know about the sound barrier, and then also the question about when you all are building these bridges, as you all are closing down encampments in the city, please understand that those bridges and the way that one looks is setting up a great place for an encampment. And then my other concern is these bridges often during the winter months are not cleared of snow and ice. So I hope that that is also part of your plan as far as the maintenance and the upkeep of them.
Yes, that's all taken on board. Now, this bridge is not encapsulated in any way. It's, I think it's caged from what you see in the renditions that we showed earlier, and it's not really conducive to encampment either at the ramps, which are open again, or on the bridge itself per se. In that location, it's very visible. It's not a comfortable place to camp. Jason, if you'd like to comment on the cleaning and the snow removal.
I think I can better handle that, David. We now have a unit that has been federally funded to buy smaller snow blowers for all pedestrian bridges, and they will be executed timely this year if we get snow. Because after all, today was 70 degrees. So plans have been laid out, people have been trained, the resources to execute are in place and stand ready for clearing the bridge of any snow. And in the fall, using just heavy duty blowers, which they can use. As you know, our city just made it illegal to have gas blowers, so we will continue to use the gas blowers to blow any leaf debris and remove trash with a miniature. It's similar to the big trucks you see that come in. I'm trying to find a better word, suck up your leaves on your street, but they're very small. But that's all in place to keep the bridges clean, to keep the bridges free of snow and ice.
Thanks, Ms. Pia. And from a design perspective, I think we have draining from one end to the other, Jason. So water should run off as opposed to icing up.
Thank you. And again, I hope that you all will consider to use whatever outreach plan you all had for the purpose of this meeting this evening to continue to keep the community updated and use that same strategy, because this was very helpful. Thank you.
You're very
Thank you, Ms.
welcome, and we will do that. Karen and I will continue to do that and reach out to everybody. And again, as Karen has indicated, please check the website for updates. And when we get close to finalizing design, we will have another public meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Layton. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to touch on, there was a comment regarding the current project that's ongoing on the service roads to improve those and the coordination between the other projects. So the Douglas Pedestrian Bridge, which we discussed a few times tonight, those designs were coordinated and the scopes of those projects were coordinated. So parts and pieces of them do not overlap between the two. Now, when the Lane Bridge collapsed, it was unfortunate, and the DC 295 improvement project, which is addressing those service roads, was in construction. However, as soon as we started the planning of this project, we did immediately look at those plans to understand what they were putting in place and where, and then we spoke with them to understand what the progress was. So there is an unfortunate fact that a small amount of work that they put in place will have to be removed and replaced with this project, but we were able to coordinate some of the work that had not gone in place and to eliminate from that contract, so it wouldn't have to be wasted funds.
Very
Thanks, Jason. We did minimize the overlap. We mitigated as much as possible reworking.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Layton. And again, we've gone ahead and put the website into the chat, so you'll see it there. Raven went ahead and placed it in the chat. It's www.laneplacepedestrianbridgedc.com. And next on our list, we have Antoine Holmes. Mr. Holmes.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little late, double booked, a lot of meetings tonight. So looking at the slides and looking on the website, one of the things we did, the Deanwood community and many other communities got together to walk the collapse that happened during the earlier this year. And some of the comments and feedback that was received during that walk was about the vibrations that are being handled. How has vibrations been minimized with this new design now that it's going up? 17, I think you said what, 17 feet, as well as car exhaust. Is that being addressed in the new design as well?
So in terms of vibration during construction, the
Not
major cause of
construction, not construction when you're walking across the bridge and the amount of vehicles. There were some folks that talk about going across that bridge, and in terms of the amount of vibration that occurs doing crossing over can be a little nauseating for some, as well as the car exhaust that occurs through that bridge. Once when the feeder pattern was that young folks would have to come across that bridge to go to school, over at Houston or at Ron Brown or other schools, et cetera. There are, we do have folks that are asthmatic and have other, conditions that depend on having high quality air, and exhaust was an agitating factor. So has that been addressed with this new design? Both of those issues.
Regarding the exhaust, there's really not a lot that we can do to address an exhaust issue in an open air environment. But with the bridge being higher up in the air, we would anticipate that the exhaust would be more dissipated at the time when you're up at that level. In terms of vibration, there are requirements for design in terms of serviceability. So, when users are on the bridge and how much that bridge can vibrate, if you look at the design of the bridge compared to what the prior bridge was, it's actually a very stiff, a very rigid structure, being a box truss. So as you can imagine, it's going to handle the load very well, and it'll handle any vibration or anything trying to impart vibration on it very well.
Okay. Well, we definitely, as design continues to happen, I'm also the commissioner for 7C07 as well as the chair for 7C. I know the Deanwood community is very interested on that. So hopefully going forward, we'll hear more if any additional is done about the design. But I have heard a lot about the air quality. And again, we do have there are health issues over here that are the same health issues that we're told all the time why we don't get sprayed over here to handle mosquitoes. People, because of the impact on the air quality. Car exhaust is still yet another issue that exasperates some folks around here. So we definitely like to see something be attempted, because prolonged use of that bridge, time over time, same folks go across that bridge. We don't want that to be a secondary issue because of using the bridge. And I want to also chime on. I did like hearing also what the other resident said about sound as well. So hopefully this is the beginning of a multi-phase approach to addressing the 295. Thank you. Oh, and it's good to see. It's good to hear from you again, Ms. Paul.
Yes, Antoine, I wanted to recommend to you that allow us to put you on our list blast, so you can also aid, because you have a huge listserv.
Yes, ma'am.
That you will promise us you will share it when we go to do our next meeting.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Anton.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Paul.
Thank you for the comment. We also plan on taking the comments received today and seeing if any of them can be incorporated or addressed in the design. So we will take it into consideration if it is possible. Thank you.
And the last one, I think it was Mr. Richmond. He's also an executive for the Deanwood Citizens Association. His comment pretty much did kind of get to the whole root of what's going on. People are taking that bridge to get to the metro station. How can we get it further there better, or to help people get to where they're actually trying to get to? So an extension it sounds like worthwhile if that's something that could be added along to it. I know this is a rush to replace what's already there, but if we can do it better and there's more infrastructure funds being applied to it, let's do it now. So we look forward to seeing any new phases attached to that, and hopefully some of those ideas will be added to the next discussion. Thank
you. Yeah, bear in mind that we'd be traversing private land, and which would warrant an acquisition. The owners of this land probably have other things in mind for its development. This is going to be a highly developed area at some point in the future, in terms of services and industry. So there are many. Once we go beyond our right of way, there are many major issues to consider. That's not to say a bridge cannot be extended at some point in the future, but to do that within the next 2 to 5 to 10 years would be a stretch. But something I never thought of, and it's food for thought. Thank you very much.
Again, I think the DCA would definitely welcome you to that meeting. I know there's some vacant lots over there and some other things that are not as productive as it could be. So we'd love to entertain that additional conversation about all those sites that you're talking about in detail.
Great. Thank
Yep.
you, Mr. Holmes. Oh, sorry, David.
I'm sorry. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Holmes.
Okay, next I have Justin Lin.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is Justin Leaney. Good to hear from all of you. Ms. Paul, in particular, good to hear from you. I had just a couple questions. One was, the first one is, since we're combining some bus stations, do we get ridership on any of those stops that would give us a shelter? The second question is, since we're replacing all these bridges, have you considered adding wayfinding signs at those bridges along the way to help people get to the metro stations, and then also landmarks on the Eastland Garden side? And then my third question was, when they reconfigure those power lines on the eastern side of Kenilworth Avenue, will those be undergrounded, or will those still be above ground?
Thanks for those questions. Those are good questions. Regarding the bus stops and bus shelters, it's not something that we've looked in detail to yet, but now that you bring it up, we will look in detail into bus shelters. Some of these bus stops, especially like you pointed out, where they are consolidating the two stops into one, and if ridership warrants a shelter. The final question you had. Let's see, Karen, can you call back those questions to me real quick?
There was a question about bus shelters, wayfinding, and then the power lines, whether they'll be underground.
Yes, thank you.
The second was
So-
on wayfinding.
Yeah, the wayfinding signs, that's something that's already been discussed on the project in terms of at least putting wayfinding signs so people understand where they are when they cross over the bridge. And so that's something that is under consideration, and we anticipate incorporating into the design. And then with the power lines, the undergrounding question, no, the power lines are not being undergrounded. They are simply being shifted to a side that makes clearance for construction and also usability of the bridge in the future.
Sure thing. Thank you. Just regarding the wayfinding signs, I'm serving on the board of Friends of Kenilworth Aquatic Gardens, and one of the top comments we have from guests coming to visit the national parks is that they get lost. So wayfinding would be really helpful for anyone who doesn't use those bridges every day. So I definitely encourage that.
Thank you.
Mr. Leaney, can I ask you to look at the map, because you're very graphic and you are technology savvy?
Yeah.
Just in case we're not sure that we can adopt everything, but at least we would have an idea of what wayfinding signs you are referring to and where they should be located. And if you could send it to David Takur, Suha, and John Gomez, they will make sure when they sit down in the next coming weeks before Christmas that they are analyzed and discerned, and we can give you and your team a status. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Paul. Good hearing from you.
Thank you, Mr. Leaney. Molly, if you'll help me for just a second. The call-in person who's on the phone with the number 365, your hand was up and now it's down. And I do want to just make sure that something didn't happen if you had a question. Molly, could you unmute that person and ask them, please? We could ask them just to make sure.
202.
Hello.
Yes, you're now unmuted.
Hello.
Yes, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. My name is Javier Barker, and I live at Eastland Gardens. And I just want to, I had a couple questions. First of all, that we have not seen a survey of the community finding out the utilization of the bridge. And when previously they did that, when Ms. Alberta Paul was with us about 10 years ago, there was a survey to the community to determine how many people were using the bridge or the bridges. So the question is, how can you just come up and decide that that's the bridge you're going to do because the utilization, which we do not know how many people really use the bridge. I was one of the person who used the bridge, and probably 2 or 3 other people. So if you're going to replace Lane Bridge and still have Nash Bridge, and where Nash, based upon your design, new design, the new bridge will be close to Nash Bridge. So that would be a little redundant, having 2 bridges right there. The second question that I have, looking at the design of the bridge at the ramp, is there any kind of a security system in place? Because that ramp is extremely long on both sides. And at night, the question is it lit properly? Is it enclosed? If it is enclosed, what kind of security is in place? And if it's not enclosed, what type of security is there for people crossing the bridge at night, which normally we do not have that much people.
So answering your second question first, yes, the bridge will be very well lit at night, so that there won't be an issue in terms of darkness or security from that particular reason. It will meet the minimum illumination standards for pedestrian facilities. From a security standpoint, the bridge will not be closed off at any point in time. So there's no gates or anything will be on the bridge that would happen to trap anybody on the bridge or on those bridge ramps.
Okay, when I say security, is not in the sense, I'm talking about the sense that people can be attacked on the bridge and stuff like that, because it is a lonely area coming from Kenilworth northbound to go over to Kenilworth southbound.
Well, the way we have approached the design for the replacement bridge is to improve in every respect, every element of design by comparison with the old bridge. So when we're relocating ramps, when we are providing access, when we've added the staircase to this bridge at either end, where the staircase is another alternate access measure, we have not enclosed the bridge. We have not enclosed the bridge. Everything's seeable from the roadway or from the sidewalk. So it's. I think there are improvements there. It's none of it is lesser than what was there. The extended ramps on one side, if unfortunately there is, I don't know if this is a particular crime area, but there are crime areas all around our city. And whether if somebody goes out there with the intention to do harm, whether the ramp was half its length, it's probably got the same capacity to happen. We don't at this point in time have any cameras in place, and I don't think we are proposing to put those in place. We don't. I don't know about the report rates for incidents on any of the 3 crossings. So what we've endeavored to do is improve every aspect of the design in terms of accessibility, safety, usership, etc. Yep, I'll hop back to something. I don't know if you joined us late or you were here from the beginning. The jury is still out on whether Nash Bridge is replaced or not, and we shall certainly be doing a lot more surveillance survey for usership before that decision is made. But what we'll have the Douglas Pedestrian Bridge replaced and the Lane Place Bridge replaced at least within a 3-year time frame. And Jason's just gone back to the lighting arrangements for this bridge, which are there are lights all over the place, and they're at heights that it's difficult, for them to get damaged. Back to you, Jason.
Okay, and the reason why I'm very into the security, because couple of years ago, in several occasions in the summertime, we had crimes at the Deanwood metro station, and the people who committed the crime, they would run over the bridges and get over to Eastland Gardens. And due to the fact that Eastland Gardens is very open and there's a lot of alleys, these people will disappear and go into the park. So, and it's difficult for the police to come over from Deanwood to get over Eastland Gardens. By the time they get around to get to Eastland Gardens, whoever committed the crime disappears. So the question, and I understand that two gentlemen from Deanwood is asking for extension. However, the extension, I don't think the Eastland Garden community will really welcome the extension, except if there is an explanation how the extension is going to benefit us. So far, due to the fact that we do not have that amount of people crossing the bridge, the crime has reduced significantly. However, sometimes in the summertime, we have a little crime that comes around where people crosses from Deanwood Metro Station and crosses the bridge and get over to the neighborhood and disappear in the neighborhood because it's a very woody area. So that's the reason why I'm kind of concerned about any type of security that is in place for these bridges that you put in. Are we there?
Well, thank you for those comments. We're lighting up these bridges like you haven't seen
Like
this
a
sort of
Christmas
lighting.
tree?
No, I'm not going to say that. We're lighting them up. We're making them as visible as possible. We have a staircase at either end, which is an alternate route. Which is an alternate route for most people using the bridge, and who are not ADA compromised.
HDSP, yeah.
Yep.
Now,
So yeah, I think we have an improvement on what was there, and I can see what you're saying about where we have people on the run from a particular, but to come out to this bridge and hang out there with with not the right things in mind, you'd be waiting a long time, I think, for yeah.
If you
Carry
look
on.
at the design, I'm looking at the design here. There is an elbow right there in both sides. So the question is, if I'm coming up the handicap ramp and to go around, I have to go all the way up and then come around to come back down to take the bridge and to go across. And that would be the same thing would happen when I get to northbound. If I'm coming from northbound to southbound, even I would walk, I can say, let's say, take the stairs down. The question is, the people who is using the handicap ramp, that U-turn there, I don't know if you have, based upon the design, the person who's coming up the ramp, can he or she sees around the bend?
You're talking about around the bend onto the main bridge?
And to the ramp that goes to the main bridge.
Yes.
And
well,
I'm talking about the that would be southbound. And the Eastland Garden side,
Yeah, the heights, yes, the heights of those of the truss structures are not very tall. On the order of 3 to 4.5 feet. That'll shake out as the design is further developed. But yeah, you will be able to see around this bend.
Yes, you can see through it. It's just like you see it there. There's a cage
So you can see through it.
around the yes, you can, and you can, and if you're halfway up the ramp, you can make a decision to go back down the ramp based on what you see on the bridge. But you should be able to see everything on the bridge, and even on the other on the ramp on the other side, which is illuminated.
And
also.
the other side is that I know it does not much. No, may I make a suggestion? I know you guys and Mr. Line is suggested that to put up signs. Can you guys do not put any kind of signs in that particular area? If you want to put the signs, put it on the bridge itself rather than on the bend or on the ramp, because that was the problem we had in Lane Bridge. There was signs placed on Lane Bridge at the
Oh yes,
elbow.
yes, I see. Yes, I
So
know what you're talking about. We're not mounting the traffic signs onto this bridge, but that would cause a blind spot. I can see where you're coming from. They will be ground-mounted signs.
Okay, so there's
yes,
signs saying going to aquatic gardens or going to whatever is going to be ground, not on the bridge.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, because those signs used to create a blind point.
Very good point.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Sorry. What about the survey? Have you done any survey to the community? As far as I know, I have not seen any survey. Ms. Alberta Paul know very well that she did a survey 10 years ago, and I was one of the participants in the survey because I was utilized the bridge. So when did you guys do a new survey to determine the quantity of people who utilizes the bridges, Nash and Lane Place?
Well, we know at least one of these bridges has got to be replaced because of the distance between these bridges, this bridge and Douglas Bridge, and the one that's just been constructed.
Okay.
So we're putting this one in at least, and I think the jury's out on the other one, but it'll take a lot of governmental administrative consideration and stakeholder feedback, and of course it'll take a modern day survey of the usership into account as well.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier.
Thank you so much. I believe, Suha, you had some comments you would like to make, and then we will close out the meeting.
Yes, we would like to thank you all for attending this meeting. We are aware that numerous questions have come through the Q&A, about 20 or so. We have documented those questions, and we plan to respond to questions from the public as soon as we can. We also do have the website, which Karen mentioned earlier, www.laneplacepedestrianbridgedc.com. There is a frequently asked questions on the website, and we will also take into consideration the questions that came in through the Q&A, and we may also add those to the website as well. So please continue to check the website for updates and responses to your questions, and thank you again for attending.
I don't think I have anything left. Thank you all again for attending, and we will certainly be back in touch with everybody. Have a lovely evening.